Well, you know what? I've been looking forward to this call all week. One of my favorite people in the world, Mr. Dave Sclanders, and I get to hang out with you and just rah, like, dude, I'm so excited.
Just you and me?
Yeah, that's how big you are, man. I can't have other guests if you're on. You're the
Are
man.
you kidding?
No, you're the man.
I need to be able to bounce off people and have,
Repartee. That's it's me and you, man. It's the Dave and Adam show. That's what we do.
oh my God,
Like
this
we're
is too
kindling things
much.
in the boardroom. The only reason we did such a good job with other people is because we got to bounce them around a little bit. So good. How's your week been?
Played golf on Monday.
Where'd you play?
Uh, Played golf today.
Where?
Uh, Today I played in Nanton.
I love Nanton. Gorgeous little
It,
country course.
it
Some
was a little dicey. I was wearing shorts and I had to put an extra sweater on because it was a little cool this morning. I teed off at 9,
yeah.
but then by the back nine it was in great shape. So um, played okay, 43, 45. So
Yeah, that's pretty
not bad.
respectable, man. Bringing in at
But
88. That's solid.
I'm in that 83 to 88 range. I just can't seem to get outside of that, get it any lower. I always seem to find a seven or a triple or something in my bag that I didn't know was there, and before I know it, that nine's gone. So I'm trying to scramble on the back nine, um, but
It
yeah,
only
it's been.
takes one, Dave. It only takes
I
one.
know,
Just that one hole
I
comes out
know.
of nowhere. Boom. Knocks the score out. Hate that.
How have you been?
I've been fantastic, man. Got some freedom in front of me, doing some interesting look at some really interesting projects, including this one, the Casual Fridays that we're putting up on Fridays, and inviting people to take a look and be a part of being human and being in business, and just connecting and getting insights from other leaders like yourself. So
Well,
the pressure's on. I need you to say something leadership-ish. You need to say something like a leader.
Well, I've really enjoyed them, Adam. I've found, you've done a great job of mixing your guests that bring a different feel to the conversation and a different background. And I've, you've done four now, I think, that I've seen for
4 or 5,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. I've seen four, and yeah, I've really quite enjoyed them. They've been very, very entertaining. I have found them to be enlightening, and
Thanks,
and
buddy.
you're actually very provocative as a game show host.
It's all a game, Dave. It's just all a game. It's all a game. And speaking of game, and you put it out there as golf. Like I know some guys, and I was a golf pro for a few years, and it can be religious. Where does it sit for you? Is golf like religious, an activity, a social sport? Like where are you at with the whole golf thing? Is it a metaphor for life? Like how deep do you go with that thing?
I- you know, um, Probably all of the above, Adam. I mean, I really enjoy. Um, I enjoy being outside, obviously. I mean,
Yeah,
I enjoy the exercise of walking. I
yeah.
enjoy the competitiveness of myself and trying to improve and get better, even though Father Time is making me worse rather than better. Um, but
Yeah, but you're getting crafty. You're getting crafty now, and
I
you don't
enjoy
get
the
as rattled.
camaraderie, camaraderie with the people you're playing with. I've got a group I usually play with, but occasionally we'll go out as single and join up with three people, and I enjoy the camaraderie that way. It's well, that and curling. I mean, when I was young, I picked two good sports that I could play into my 60s. So I still dabble in both, and still I'm averagely proficient at both. But I think it is my wife would probably say it's a religion. You know, I'm playing 4 days a week. So, but
Man, you're a fanatic. You're a religious fanatic.
well, March and April seemed like they were 100 days long, Adam. I mean, it was
Well,
pretty.
there's nothing
eh,
open, right?
well, nothing open and not really any optimism, or
Yeah, it
didn't
was
know where the bottom
downer.
was, right? So, now that we've seen the bottom, and we seem to be from the numbers I see, which Alberta's doing extremely well, and Canada as a whole is doing extremely well.
Yeah,
This has been a bit of you know the last between COVID and what's been going on in the U.S. I mean,
crazy making down
it's
there.
just it feels like a moment in time that is going to change. I mean, I
I
felt
agree.
the Me Too thing movement was a very very enlightening moment for me,
Yeah,
and
eye-opening.
again, it just it awakened me to a very to a world that I again to be 60 years old and be as naive as I am. Yeah, again, but it made me look. I think the thing that struck me the hardest, and you've got children, and you'll appreciate this, but for me, when my daughter was turning, 14, 15, 16, and all of a sudden the leash was getting longer and longer and longer, and then pretty soon it was off the leash. My advice to her was, if you ever get yourself in trouble, either driving or anything, get a policeman. Stop a policeman, and they'll help you. And when you reflect on that of a person with color, I mean, that's not something that they can say. I mean, and that really struck me as I saw something on a video somewhere where a person of color was walking in a U.S. neighborhood they had their dog and they had their daughter with them, and they said they did that so that people in the neighborhood would realize that they were a local. I mean, I thought, oh my God, you can't go for a walk in your own neighborhood. So it just some of that stuff is really it's impactful, and again, I guess I'm naive to that whole thing, and you hate
I
to
think it
say
is
that.
lost on a couple of white Canadian old guys up here.
Totally.
That we don't have that context. It is heartbreaking. It is a cry for a whole new level of humanity and looking at the context of law enforcement, and looking at the discrimination that we don't feel or see, but it exists. And a friend of mine, Brian Lanier, you like LinkedIn. Go look up Brian Lanier. He put out a post that was published in the Herald. Brian is American by birth, Canadian by choice. He's a person of color. He's a phenomenal leader, a mentor of mine. And man, he wrote quite a moving piece, quite a stirring piece about it's time to stand up and make a difference. And I hear
Well,
you
I look at
pushing the same
myself.
thing. Like, we got to reevaluate this.
I look at myself and say, I don't believe I am, but maybe I need to start asking myself and starting again. And how do I thought some of uh, President Obama's remarks yesterday that I saw on some of the TVs were just, this is a moment in time to change. Now, how do we translate all the actions that are happening down in the U.S. and in Canada and Calgary? How do we translate those into something better? What is that
Yeah,
link that now steps up and makes this? I saw the LA mayor has reallocated about 150 or 200 million dollars to out of the police budget and into communities of color, and so this is not going to be solved in a day. I
no,
get that, but I think this, like I say, this for me, it's a moment in time. This feels different than it ever did
agreed. I
before.
think it's a fulcrum upon
And
which we're going to see us go in a better direction. You remember the time when Bernard Getz,
yeah,
does that name mean anything to you?
yep, yep,
Bernard Getz, the guy that was on the subway that shot the youth in the
yep.
subway in New York, and that was a moment in time, and he got off because of the frustration and the crime and everything. It had nothing to do with anything except the frustration and the upset and the crime taking over, and it changed. And New York is, well, you and I have both been there. It's a safe city. It's a great city.
Well,
And
and
that
when you
changed.
look,
That was a moment that changed. Hopefully, this is a moment that, as you said, we move forward on. It's a moment. It's an invitation to change. Let's look for that silver lining and that grab what's possible and start to pull it toward us as a society, as a world. I think you're right. There's something available here.
well, this feels different. It just, I mean,
Yeah.
of the cities that I watch on, when you watch CNN or the news, and I've been to probably every one of those cities in the U.S. and it breaks my heart to see what's going on there. It just, and if it has to go to that level to get people's attention,
Yeah.
we all saw, because we're sports guys. I mean, the Colin Kaepernick,
Right.
he wasn't able to get it to the point it is now. I mean, and now that whole kneeling means something different than it did ever before to me. And again, like I say, I'm a naive Canadian guy. I didn't get, and now I admit I get it. I really
Mm.
that video was hard to watch. I mean,
Oh,
it was just you got angry. I mean, I got angry, and
yeah.
thought how I just could not do that to another human being, and to think it's over a counterfeit $20. Are you kidding me? Like
Oh, ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. That's not a world I'd ever seen before, and it just is so foreign. But it opened my eyes. I mean, I really this is, like I say, it just feels different. So anyway,
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate the difference that you want to make and we want to make in moving us forward. And together, we'll make that difference. So
well,
if you
I'm
get a chance,
I'm
go read Brian's article after this and give it a comment or a poke, because it is
oh, I will for
quite
sure.
stirring, quite stirring. Hey, back to something a little bit lighter. Do you wear flip flops or thongs in the summer? I mean, on your
I
feet.
I know. I'm
Good.
trying. I don't know how you describe them. I've got an Adidas one
A one
I
piecer?
slip. Yeah, one piece thing I slip into. So I don't. Is that
Is it
that's not
like
a
a
flip flop,
slipper
is
or
it?
something?
Well, it's an Adidas one, so it just goes over the top and your toes stick
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
and
yeah. Flip
and
flops.
is that a flip flop?
What do they call it? Slides. They call them slides.
Slides. It's a slide. I
Yeah,
wear a
I'm a
slide.
slide guy. I don't like anything between my toes. I've tried it, can't do it.
I just find them easier to put on and off, and like I went golfing this morning.
Super comfy.
They were
Yeah.
sitting by the back door. You throw them on and drive with them, and so I find those. But I only have one pair. Like I don't have 10 pair. I have one pair of those.
You're a practical guy, Dave. Practical guy.
I,
Hey,
I,
what else are
live
you doing these days besides golfing? Now that the our industry and the hospitality events and meetings business is still fairly suppressed or closed or not operational right now, or there's some rumblings in the virtual. What are you up to these days?
Well, I'm working with the BMO on a
Great.
few different things on the project side to keep the thing moving forward. I keep in contact with a few of my colleagues down in the U.S. I'm a bit of a network guy, so I'm talking to the folks down in the U.S. and seeing what they're because their industry is so big inside. They're still going. They're still getting bids. They're still responding to RFPs. There's still things being planned.
Are they
I
hosting
sit
anything? Or are they still on the similar type quarantines where no events more than, what is it,
Yeah,
50
no,
people or
they're
20
still
people?
there, but they're working in as September and October. They've got more stuff on the books, I think, than we do in Canada. Just on talking again to some of my colleagues in Toronto and Vancouver and
Yeah.
Montreal, and keeping up to date with that, and so just staying engaged and keeping having contact with just to hear what's going on and what it's not nothing really has really emerged yet, but I think that people are starting to feel like there's going to be a 2021,
Great.
and I think 2020 is. We'd like to think that we can get some stuff still in the fall going, but
Did you
you
see
just
the NBA is going to have a season? They're talking about having a season starting in July.
July 31st, I heard, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing the same as the NHL. They're looking at two,
Abbreviated season with a playoff. Yeah, just a
yeah, but they're
quick
going to sit in two
tournament
pods.
almost.
Orlando, I think they're going to Disney
Yeah.
World or something to do it there. So, I kind of wish the NHL and those guys would just, move on and start it up in October and start with a regular season. And it's going to feel, I don't know. I just don't, I'm not sure I'm ready for this, watching hockey in August
I may still have some time on my hands at that point, so I'm okay with it.
Well, I'm excited about golf coming back. I mean, June
For
11th, the first
sure.
golf tournament. I'm just not sure that at 7 o'clock on an August night, I'm going to be sitting there watching a hockey game. But anyway, we'll see.
Did you see Michael Jordan's thing, Last Dance? Did you
I
see the
have been
Last Dance?
watching. I watched I think 2 episodes of it so far. It's on
Holy,
Netflix, so I've been
yeah.
I've been snooping at it. But I tried to watch a little bit of the other one, the um, cyclist. Um,
Lance
who was
Armstrong
it?
one?
Yeah, Lance Armstrong. I tried to watch a little bit of that, but
I haven't seen that one.
it was on TSN or something.
Hmm.
I watched I think 2 episodes or an episode and a half, and it just too slow moving for me.
Didn't
Just
grab you.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge basketball guy, so I mean, obviously Jordan's iconic, so
For
it'll be
sure.
interesting to see. You know, he's a little bit of a gambler and a little bit. He's kind of an
Well worth
interesting.
the watch. Like, wow, the
Yeah,
behind the
I've
scenes.
heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I heard
the
that.
story, the backstory on Pippen, the backstory on Rodman, the backstory on Phil Jackson, on Jerry, their manager. Some really interesting stuff, and metaphorical for both business and life, and stuff we've endured, stuff we've gone through together, and stuff that's still going to happen.
Yeah.
We're not in basketball, but the lessons in there you can pull from, and you can see the different personalities that come to the table to make something happen, to create something great. I really enjoyed it.
The little bit I watched of it, what impressed me is the different style of basketball then and
Right,
now. I mean, it was physical. I mean, they were. I mean,
right.
again, I don't watch a lot of basketball, so but I tell you, it seemed like, I mean, when they were playing the Pistons, I mean, it was really physical. I mean, they
Brick,
were
yeah,
banging at bodies and knocking each other down, and I'm thinking, this is like a hockey game. This is not basketball that I know. There's no, standing back at the three point line and shooting. I mean, it was pretty intense basketball back in those days.
yeah, it was. Hey, another question for you. What do you think affects your mood more, sunshine or warmth? I got a few of these. So sunshine or warmth, which affects your mood more?
I think probably warmth. I'm
You
a
like to
real
be warm.
warm. I like to be warm.
You would
Whether
take a
that's
let's say a cloudy Florida night over a sunny Alberta morning.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with a Manitoba night because I come from Winnipeg. So the
Hometown
humidity and
shout out, baby.
the nice warm
I
Manitoba
get it. With the
nights,
humidity.
I
Yeah.
feel good. It makes my bones feel good. Where I mean, sunshine is nice, and I do like it. It would be certainly a 1A, 1B, but I take the warmth of that wonderful evening.
Okay. What about clouds versus rain? You say cloudy or rainy?
Definitely cloudy every day.
Yeah,
I don't like the rain.
but I enjoy a good rain, long as it's brief.
I enjoy sitting on a deck under a cover and watching it rain, but I don't. Calgary has a cold rain. When it rains here, it's
Oh, it gets
cold.
cold for
When it
sure.
rains in Ontario or Manitoba, it's warm. You can still just put on a. In fact, if I used to wear a rain suit in Winnipeg, it was too hot because it would be raining, but it'd be so hot that you couldn't wear the rain suit. So, whereas here, it gets cold when it rains here. So
Well, it
I'm not
does.
a much of a rain guy.
Okay, mountains or beaches?
Beaches.
Me too. I love the beach. I've been getting out to the mountains because I have some time on my hands and had some amazing hikes. Really rediscovered how gorgeous those mountains are. The past, the fauna, the flora, the trees. It's phenomenal. But dude, put me on a beach.
Yeah. A good friend of ours, Erin Dawson,
Yeah,
she's a
Aaron.
big
Yeah.
hiker. She loves hiking, and she would take. I mean, I know what answer she'd make to that question right away. But no, if I'm going to sit somewhere, going to walk somewhere. I used to love to go to Hawaii. Would take my daughter when she was in school, and we'd take it for spring break and Waikiki, and you can walk miles towards Diamond Head, miles back, and just it just that's I'd love
I
to
know
do it.
there's something really peaceful, zen out
Totally.
for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Do you like the big urban city downtown urban or the quiet suburbs?
I live in the suburbs, but I live in the suburbs of a bigger city. I would struggle moving, again, no disrespect to Red Deer, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat. I would struggle. Um, I think I could maybe live in a Hamilton or an Oakville as long as I was close enough to get to a Toronto, or something
Yeah.
like that. No, I'm a city guy. I've been born and raised, always lived in cities my whole life. Never been a farm kid or in a small town. Small again.
Yeah.
Saskatoon's the smallest town I've ever lived in, but interesting story. When I moved to Saskatoon, 7-Elevens were open from 7 in the morning till 11
I
o'clock at
know. That's
night.
why they're called 7-Eleven. A lot of people
That's
don't
just
know
why
that.
they were called
Yeah, that's
that.
right.
So it's funny. I tell my daughter that she doesn't believe me. She says, Dad, you're making that up, right? I said, no, that's really true.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
didn't know
That's
that
good.
because in 7-Elevens in Winnipeg, when I moved from Winnipeg to Saskatoon, they were open 24 hours. But in Saskatoon, they were open 7 to 11.
Yeah, very good. Very good. What about cottage country or resort town? Would you rather go to a resort town like a Playa del Carmen, or would you rather go to a cottage country like Muskoka?
That's a tough one. I can enjoy both. I've got a buddy that lives north of Toronto, and he lives in near Barrie, and
Yeah,
I
gorgeous up there.
probably I mean I lived in Winnipeg again, as I said. So cottage country there is huge. You're 30
Everybody's
minutes
got
from
one.
Grand Beach or so. I've been to a lot of cottage country in my days, but I also I've been love Whistler, love Banff, love resort communities, love Chicoutimi. There's something about both. So I'm not going to give you a good answer for that one.
Well, you like them both. I like them both too. Very diplomatic. And, if somebody offered me, hey, you know what? I got a cottage over in, you know, Black Lake in Northern Ontario, I'm in. If somebody said, hey, do you want to come down and spend a week with me in Puerto Vallarta? I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll go either way.
I'm a little
Um,
spoiled though. Cottage country can't be too rustic. I'm kind of,
you
I'm
want
a,
you want the amenities for sure.
I
I don't
gotta
want
have
the
the,
outhouse.
yeah. I'm not a roughed out kind of guy. I'm very, 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 very city folk. I'm for sure.
Yeah, you're high maintenance, baby.
Well, long as roughing it for me is staying at a hotel that doesn't have room service. I mean, that's.
You've gotten there. Well, you're a legend. And speaking of being a legend, where's been your favorite place to work and why? I mean, you've done the Calgary Flames, you've done the convention center, you've done meetings, conventions, Calgary, you did airlines.
Zoo.
Dude, you've done a lot. You've had a very distinguished career. What's been the favorite moment and why, and what could some of our younger listeners benefit from?
Boy, that is really a tough. I have been very fortunate. I spent 27 years with Canadian Airlines, and that taught me a lot. I mean, I don't have university education. I was one of the lucky guys who got a job right out of high school, and just was gradually promoted all the way along. And the airline allowed me to see the world. It allowed me to understand a lot about business and a lot about customers and customer loyalty and then going to the Flames. I mean the sports entertainment business is you realize really quickly the guys who work in the hockey department, you can be the best sales guy in the world, but if your team is not successful in the standings, it's a pretty tough sell. And
It's a
and
product.
uh,
Yeah.
but again, the loyalty and the passion of sporting fans, there is a core that no matter what you do to them, they are passionate about it, and I think that role was interesting in that you almost, when I came home at the end of the day, I'm cutting my grass. My neighbor wants to talk about, you should have traded this player, or you should have done this, or you go to
Oh
a house
man, I can
party.
imagine.
Everybody's got an opinion on
Totally.
so So when I get on an airplane, they'd always, people talk, say,
You
what
don't
do you,
want to tell them who you work
I
for.
don't want to tell them who I work for, because you just, it was enjoyable in that you were one of 30. I was director of sales and one of 30 in North America, and there was a real it was interesting dynamics in those days. There was have teams and have not teams. Toronto was always a have, Philly was a have, Denver was a have, but the have not teams, Vancouver, Ottawa, where you were competitive on the ice, but you weren't competitive on the sales and marketing side, because you were trying to do and learn from them what was successful in their markets, what worked in Chicago, what worked in Top Shelf. The Flames use now, I think, was started in Chicago. So it was an interesting bonding unit when we used to go to Boca Raton for our NHL meetings, and the sales group would get together and exchange ideas, and that was really a very interesting time to be there. But I will say probably my most enjoyable role that I was with the Calgary Zoo, and the zoo was really an interesting place to work, because you didn't understand the impact that conservation and the impact that animals have. And obviously now with the coronavirus, we're learning about, most diseases come from the animal world and are transmitted, whether it be bird flu or any of the things that happen. I had a chance to work with some really passionate people again, that they used the zoo was an attraction, but it was really to introduce the next generation to conservation. And we did a lot of work in reintroduction of species and a lot of things that I didn't know about the zoo. You go to the zoo to, and I think that was something that was that, and it exposed me to, after having been in sales for most of my career, I was in the development side. I was director of development and looking after the planned giving and annual giving and corporate donations and things like that. And it's a really very different process and a very different value conversation about investing in conservation, investing in the zoo, and sponsorship at the zoo, and it's a very different conversation you're having with either the corporate or the individual giver. But that was again another. So that job was really, did that for 7 years, and it was really a very rewarding job when you were able to get a donation for a piece of equipment in the animal health center. It made our vets' job that much better. It made the care of our collection that much better. And so it was a more of a, the sales is always very transactional, and you sell a group, or you sell a charter, or you sell a section of season tickets or whatever. That was good, but it didn't have that same make you feel good about your day at the office. Dave.
Very cool. Well, buddy, it has been a pleasure.
Is it over already?
Time. I know. Half an hour kicks out, like bam. And you have been just what I thought you would be and more. Magnanimous, generous. You are my wonderful mentor, one of my favorite people I've met in this part of the journey. And thank you for sharing. In closing, I want you to have the last word. What would you say as a professional tip to those people that are in sales and business development? What's something they should take with them, a lesson that you've learned that they can benefit from as they go forward building their careers now in sales and business?
Well, I think, what has kept me, through all the different jobs, I only had to apply for one job in my whole life. And I think it's all about networking, and keeping your network alive. Like even right now, when I said, what am I doing right now? I'm still talking to my colleagues in the US. I'm still talking to the people in Canada. And I think it's really important that as you're building a network, as you join LinkedIn, make sure you're reaching out and creating a network that you can rely on, that you can reach out and talk to. That, you know, if I have anything I ever want to reach out to, I know I can call you and say, Adam, give me your perspective on this. And having that, you know, investing the time in developing a network and in developing that relationship is really stood me in great stead over my career. I still talk to people that I used to deal with in the airline business, travel agents from years ago, and again, the hockey business, my buddies are still there. And so, you know, when you work with people, keep that network up, keep that relationship up, make sure that you're engaged with them, because I know the next generation, millennials, you know, they're different. Different style than we have. Our style was as a boomer was very different than the style they have. But I would encourage them to, you know, and you never know what's going to happen in life and what's going to turn you. And when you need somebody to kind of, you know, get a network and stand up and put a good word in for you somewhere, boy, I tell you what, I've been very blessed over my career to have people who have always been very supportive of me and always said a kind word about me. So I that's done the best that I can do in any education or any other piece of advice I could give is keep a strong network, because it'll get you a long way.
Well said. It's all about the people, Dave. What a pleasure to have you. Thanks for making time for me today. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend, buddy.
Take care, pal.
All right, you too. Bye.